So I think it's been a pretty good year for me and this channel. I think I've made somewhere close to about 25 or 30 different reviews, and I probably bought upwards of 40 or 50 different pens. So let's wrap it up at the end, because it's only a few days away from Christmas and the New Year, so I thought it was about time to make my list of not so much my top 5 fountain pens from this year, but more so my favourite fountain pens from this year, because I think there is certainly a distinction between those 2 points, because if I was to say what was my best fountain pen, it would probably just be Wingsung 3008 repeated 5 times, because pens like that, they have brilliant nibs, brilliant ergonomics, and sometimes they have alright aesthetics, and they are brilliant to write with, but they sort of lack, I guess, some excitement sometimes, because pens such as the Wingsung 3008, brilliant nibs, butter smooth, but they have no line variation. But pens such as the Wingsung 698, they're a little bit more scratchy, a little bit more unreliable, but I have a lot more fun using those pens. So this is my list of my 5 favourite fountain pens to use from 2018. So first off, let's start off the list with a pen that everyone knew was going to be here, and that's the Montblanc 146, a pen my sister got me for my birthday, and obviously I'm going to say off the bat, this is not the best fountain pen in the world. It really isn't. There are certainly pens that cost a lot less than this that are going to be much better writers. A pen that comes to my mind is certainly the Sailor 1911. So this is not the best fountain pen, and not the best fountain pen I've ever used, but in terms of how much I enjoy writing and the writing experience that I get, this really is certainly one of the best pens from this year. First of all, let's talk about the aesthetics. I really do love looking at this pen. I know that is something that some people don't agree with, but I really do enjoy looking at this pen. Picking it up and feeling it is just an experience by itself. It has really beautiful platinum trim, and it just feels very nice to hold. And when you open it, you have this lovely big Montblanc nib. It just feels very, very nice. And when I pull this out and sign documents, sign my signature, it might just be the Montblanc branding, but I really do enjoy pulling this out and signing my signature with this pen. It's a very nice experience. And as well as that, this nib is pretty good. When I did iron out some of the kinks that involved realigning this nib ever so slightly, it fixed it up. There were no skipping issues, and this nib has been pretty much flawless ever since then. This nib is also really nice. It's not the best nib in the world. I'm pretty sure there are other nibs that are better than this, but this one is very fun to use. There is a nice amount of spring in it, so you can get some nice line variation, and it's just butter smooth to use. So this is why this pen has earned its name on my top 5 fountain pen list from 2018. I really do enjoy using this pen. The next pen that I'll put on my list is this. This is the Kaweco Wedge, and this is the pen that I reviewed last weekend. And I know some people are going to be a little bit in disagreement to me putting this on this list because of the cracking issue that affects some of these pens, but I have to say that for this list I can only draw on my experience with this fountain pen, and I will have to say I have enjoyed using this fountain pen a lot. I pretty much used it as an everyday carry pen for the past month and a half now, and I really do enjoy using it. First of all, let's talk about the body, because for a $15 pen, they have used Macrolon, and Macrolon is such a great material to use. It has such a unique feeling. It's much nicer, or at least different, than what you would normally get for most fountain pens. Most pens use either, some polystyrene, or acrylic or ABS, which is a very nice material, but it is nice to see something take a little bit of a departure from those common materials. And Macrolon just has a very, very nice feel to it. Plus, this pen has very nice ergonomics and aesthetics, and as well as that, it has a very nice nib. And as an everyday carry pen, I think it is a great choice. Yes, it might be a little bit boring to use when you use fountain pens for fun, but as an everyday carry pen, I do enjoy using it. The only issue that I do have with this is the clip. I really will have to grind some of the material away under the clip sometime, but apart from that, I think this is one of my favourite everyday carry pens at the moment. The next pen that I'll have on my list is this. This is the Retro 51 Tornado, and for a while it was one of my favourite everyday carry pens, and it's for a few good reasons. First of all, the aesthetics. I think this is a very nicely designed fountain pen. This is the Tornado, and it has a very nice, I don't know, like a twisted brushed bronze finish, and I think that is very nice. It's something that you don't see on a lot of fountain pens. It's something that is a little bit more unique. As well as that, it has very nice detailing at the top. It has a knurled cap and a top finial, which I think is very nice and something that's a little bit different to see. As well as that, as an everyday carry pen, this pen is very ergonomic to hold. It has a very simple grip, and that's something that I really do like. I can hold it wherever I want, and I pretty much can write with it from any angle. It's very forgiving on the type of angle you use. It's just a very comfortable pen to use. But the biggest thing that I like about this pen, of course, is the feed and nib unit. First of all, it's not too wet, but it's not too dry, which means when I'm using this at university, I can use this very comfortably on cheaper copy paper or the $2 books that I buy from Officeworks. This pen can be used on cheap paper, which is nice, but the cool thing about this nib, and the nib is something that I really do like about it, is it is a Schmidt number 6 size nib. So when you want to slow down, you can get some very nice line variation from this pen. It's not a flex nib, and it's certainly not a semi-flex nib, but when you push this fine nib, you can get some very nice contrast between the lines where there's no pressure and pressure. And for me, that's really all I want. I don't really care all that much about flex. I really care about contrast between the thick and thin lines. And for this pen, it really does deliver it. As well as that, it uses a pretty big converter. You can get a fair amount of ink in there, which means I only have to refill this pen maybe once or twice a week, which is pretty good. So, Retro 51, it's not a huge brand, but I really do recommend taking a look at it if you do see it in the store. It's a very fun pen to use. The next pen on my list is a pen that most people should recognize because it has a pretty distinctive shape, and that is the Moonman M2. And I think the Moonman M2 is probably one of my most used everyday carry pens from this year. Like the Retro 51, it was one of my favourite pens to take to uni, and that's for several reasons. First of all, let's talk about the aesthetics. The aesthetics of this fountain pen are really great. Just looking at it, even when there's no ink in it, is really nice. But when you do fill it up with an ink, and especially a pretty vibrant ink, it really looks amazing when you pull it out in front of people and there's just ink sloshing in the back. I think it's a very great looking fountain pen. But as well as that, it has great ergonomics. First of all, when you hold it, it's very comfortable. I can use this pen for long periods of time without needing to stop, change grips, and it doesn't really get all that slippery. And as well as that, the ergonomics long term are pretty great because as someone who doesn't need to change inks all that often, the 2 mils of ink capacity that this fountain pen has is just great. When I was at uni in the middle of the year, when the workload really picked up and I didn't upload for a while, this was pretty much my sole fountain pen that I used during that time, and I only had to refill it about once, which was great considering I didn't have much time. So in terms of long-term use, this has proven to be a great fountain pen. In terms of writing, this pen is just amazing. First of all, this pen never hard starts and it never skips, which is something that I really would want from every single pen out there. But this pen here is really reliable. One of the most reliable pens I've ever used. And as well as that, ever since I did my review, I did polish it with a little bit of micro mesh, and it is pretty much butter smooth at this point. It is a very great writer, and in terms of using it on cheaper copy paper, it is a little bit on the more wetter side than I would want, but it certainly does handle cheap copy paper pretty well, and it handles other papers such as Rhodia and Clairefontaine really nicely. As well as that, when you do use it on cheaper paper and you just want to get work done, this pen can easily be used and you can easily jot down a whole bunch of notes. But the cool thing is this pen has a little bit of flex to give from it and a little bit of line variation. So when you're using nicer paper and you want to slow down, you can get some very nice writing from this pen. Finally, let's talk about a pen that really personifies what I said in the beginning, and that's these pens don't need to be great writers, they just need to be fun to write with. And that pen that really personifies that is this. This is the Hero 70. And the Hero 70, when I reviewed it a few weeks ago, I said, look, this fountain pen is cool because it has a nib that's been designed so you can write with this pen from any angle, which is absolutely fantastic. I love the concept of this pen, and implementing it actually worked. You can write with this pen from any angle and it won't skip. There's no change in line width. You can't even notice it. And that is brilliant. My only criticism of this pen was the awful ergonomics, and B, there's no line variation with this pen. Even when you push down hard, there's no line variation whatsoever. So when you use this pen, after maybe 30 minutes of solid writing, this pen gets a little bit boring to use, and then you put it away. The thing is, I've had a lot of fun using this fountain pen because I only use it about once a week. And that's the cool thing. So I'll use it, I'll enjoy it, and then I can simply put it away when I get bored of it. But the next time I pick it up, maybe a week later, I'll pick it up and I'll say, wow, I haven't used this fountain pen in a while. And remember, it has the crazy 360-degree nib. I'll use that for a while and I'll get my enjoyment from that, and then I'll put it away and then maybe use it a week after that. And that's something that makes me love this fountain pen so much. It might not be a great writer, but I have so much enjoyment from writing with this pen, it doesn't even matter. And it certainly deserves to be on the top spot, or not really ranked anyway, but it certainly deserves to be on this list. Welcome to the writing sample for the top 5 pens of 2018. To start off, let's get a writing sample from the Kaweco Edge. This pen has an extra fine Schmidt nib, and the ink that it's using is Noodler's Black. And Noodler's Black is probably my most used ink of 2018, but that's not really anything important, I just use a lot of black ink. So first of all, let's get a quick writing sample. And as you can see from that writing sample, there was no issues whatsoever. There's not too much scratch from the nib, and the nib is pretty consistent. This is pretty much why I enjoy using this for everyday writing. In terms of line variation, there really isn't much natural line variation in the nib. However, if you do want to slow down, there is a little bit of flex that you can get from this pen. So if you do want to slow down, you can get some nice writing, but as I said before, I pretty much use this for everyday writing. And that's the Kaweco Edge. Next pen that we'll get is the Hero 70, the pen that you can write from in any direction. And I'll rotate this about 90 degrees. 70. What's this pen? I'm not exactly sure what this is, so It doesn't exactly say what nib size, so I'll just do fine medium. The ink that it's using is, I think this is Parker Quink. And let's get a quick writing sample. Let me just line that up. Let me turn it another 90 degrees. And that is a writing sample from the Hero 70, and as you can see from there, it's able to be written with from any direction, and it does work, it really does work. But there really isn't much line variation, there's not much going on here. If I just showed you this writing sample, you probably wouldn't be able to tell if this was from a fountain pen. In terms of line variation, there pretty much is none, and you can't get any flex from this pen. And in terms of wetness, it's pretty average. This pen, as I said before, it's fun to write with every now and then, but it is a gimmick and it just doesn't feel like a proper fountain pen. The next pen we'll use here is the Retro 51. The ink that it's using is, I think this is, no, it's Parker Quink. And it has a fine Schmidt nib, and it is a number 6 size nib. Quick writing sample. Like the other nibs, it is very, very good at doing everyday writing, and I think number 6 nibs are a lot more ergonomic to write with. You can really hold the pen further back, and you can really relax the angle at which you hold the pen. It's very, very comfortable, and it does everyday writing very, very well. But in terms of line variation, there is no natural line variation in the grind of the nib, but if you do want to slow down, you can get some nice contrast. So there is no pressure, and there is pressure. It's certainly not a flex nib, but you can get some nice contrast. So slow down. You can get some very, very nice writing from this pen, and that's something that I really enjoy from this nib. Next up, let's take a look at the Montblanc 146. Start a new page and try to center it up. Montblanc 146. Here we go. Master Stuk. And this is the 146. This one here has a medium nib, though I did swap it from a fine to a medium. That was the first thing I did when I got this pen. The ink that it's using is Montblanc Permanent Black, so Montblanc Black. Let's get a quick writing sample. Oh, wow. And as you can see from that writing sample, there was a little bit of a skip. The only pen to skip so far, and it was the most expensive. That's a bit embarrassing, but as you can see from the rest of the writing sample, Montblanc pens, or at least the way that I write with this pen, it certainly has a very distinctive way of writing, and I do like it. It is a little bit on the wetter side. Well, it is actually a pretty wet nib, so I try to avoid using let's say cheaper copy papers when I use this pen, but it certainly is a lot of fun to use. There is a lot of bounce and flex from this nib, and it is very, very nice to write with. The flex doesn't show up in the writing, but it certainly is there. So in terms of line variation, there isn't all that much natural line variation, though when you do want to add some pressure, oh my god, it is skipping. That's no pressure, and let's slowly build up. So you can get some very, very nice line variation from this pen. So if you want to slow down, you can get some alright writing from this pen. It's not a flex nib, it certainly isn't. It certainly doesn't have the flex from the older Montblanc pens, but you can get some nice writing with this pen. But signatures certainly is what I use this pen for. I'm not going to do my signature here, but you can get some nice writing from this pen, especially on a day where the pen writes well. I probably need to fill it up a little bit more. Next, let's take a final writing sample from this pen, the Moonman M2. So this is the Moonman. This is the M2. This one here has the extra fine nib, and of course I had to pick a special link because, you know, it's the wonderful Moonman M2. So the best thing I could probably find was Quink food colouring. It's a wonderful link, this quick writing sample. And as you can see from that writing sample, I had absolutely no issue whatsoever. Pen was very reliable, much more reliable than the Montblanc 146, and it lays down a very, very nice extra fine line. It is pretty fine, this line, and it's not overly scratchy for such a fine point. In terms of line variation, there it is with no pressure, and let's slowly build up pressure. So you can get a little bit of flex, but you can certainly get some nice contrast. So if you slow down, you can make some letters look very, very nice. And that is it for the writing sample. Thank you very much for watching. And there you have it. That is the list of my 5 favourite fountain pens from 2018. As I said in the beginning, this is not a definitive list of the best fountain pens in 2018, and it's not a list of the best fountain pens that I have used from 2018, but this is certainly a list of pens where I have written with them and I have enjoyed using them. And that's really what I think fountain pens really should be all about. It shouldn't be about getting the best fountain pen because, as I said, just get a Wingsung 3008. But this list really is about enjoying using fountain pens and taking a bit of time to not just use them for everyday writing, but using them for enjoyment. Because at the end of the day, if I didn't enjoy using fountain pens, I probably wouldn't have bought so many of them, I probably wouldn't have made a YouTube channel, and I probably would have gone back to using a rollerball. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.